Welcome to Let's Plant Houses, the podcast where we talk about some incredible families' journeys. I'm your host, Wendy Ernson. Whether you're a parent, a caregiver, or simply seeking to understand more about this journey, you're in the right place. Today, I have Joel and Debbie here joining us on the show, sharing their family story. So thank you both for being here today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
So if you guys would start by telling us a little bit about your family, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. We are from Michigan, live in Huntington Woods, Michigan. Debbie and I have 3 children. Our oldest is Danielle. She's 23 and nonverbal and has autism. Then we have a middle daughter, Alexandra, who is 21, and we have a son who's 16, Charlie.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Danielle.
Yep.
But I think she goes by a nickname. Is that right?
Yeah, we call her Dani.
Okay. Yep. So Dani, when did you suspect there was something just a little bit different about her?
Yeah, probably around, Debbie will correct me if I'm wrong, but probably around 18 months or so, we noticed that her eye contact wasn't great. We would kind of call her name, and she wouldn't always be staring at us. At some point, my sister thought, oh, maybe she has a hearing issue. And we were like, oh, maybe she does. And we kind of looked into that. And then I don't remember exactly. Deb, do you remember when we decided it's probably time to kind of check that out?
It was about 18 months. Yeah. We were down in Florida visiting with Joel's sister and family, and she has a daughter a few months younger than Dani. And that was the first time we had really ever noticed some strong differences between Dani and other kids her age.
Okay. And so where did you start next or go next?
Yeah. Where did we end
We went
up?
to the Beaumont Behavioral Institute, and we did a full study.
Yep.
And after a lot of different testing, they came back with PDD-NOS.
I know that one.
I'm sure you do.
Pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified.
Exactly, which I think was a very gentle way of telling us she had autism. And so that started our path and our journey, and we went from there.
One of the interesting things about Dani is that early on she did have some words.
Okay.
And not a ton, but she did have a few words that she said pretty well. And I think maybe by the age of 2, she lost all of her words.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what happened next? Like, how did your lives change?
Yeah, I mean, then we were kind of, once she was diagnosed, or first of all, I think it was our first child. So there's a little bit of I think there's a little bit of almost like a mourning from the idea of, that you don't have a typical child, right? Because that's kind of the picture and view I think that most people expect. So I think there was a lot of that. There was definitely some why us's type of we went through. That was really hard emotionally for us. But at the same time, we were kind of determined and optimistic that we could kind of figure things out and get her on the right track, and then started diving into therapies right away, which Deb could probably tell you more about.
Well, I'm going to back up a little bit and say I think he missed denial. I think at first when they told us, we thought, you have this wrong. You just don't know her. The day we brought her in for the study, she was tired, or I didn't like the interviewer or whoever it was. Yep. I think we went through, you don't know what you're talking about, but okay, fine. If you want us to follow steps A, B, and C to get her to a good place, we'll do that. Almost like we'll do that to entertain you and what you think our kid has. Yeah. So that was kind of where I started out, more in denial, and Joel, I think, accepted it a little bit more right away.
It's hard. I mean, it's really hard. And then even at that time, I mean, I say this often on the show, but you feel a little alone too. So, because you're like, is this happening to anybody else? Like, where do we start? Like, knowing that this is our diagnosis, like, what does that mean?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. From that aspect, and even just kind of watching other typical children that are friends and stuff having children around you, it does feel lonely. It's a good way of saying it. But yeah, for sure. Where do you start? Right.
And so it sounds like the next step for you guys, once you were able to accept some of this was to look at therapies.
Right, exactly. So we dove into ABA therapy.
So that was available then?
It was available, but in other states, Joel's sister, again, backing up to her family, they live in New York. And so she says, oh, you should be able to get 40 hours a week of ABA-supported therapy. And so when Joel and I looked into it, there was nothing in the state of Michigan.
Right.
Nobody was paying for anything. And so we kind of piecemealed together a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and this person 2 hours this day. And we just tried to create some version of it. But I think we got the most therapy we could paying out of pocket.
Yep.
Because as you know, those therapies are, maybe if you're lucky, you can get something for $25 an hour, but up to like $125 an hour. So the therapies were insane.
And they weren't covered then.
Nothing was covered.
Right. I remember that too.
We were trying to learn it ourselves. I was trying to do ABA with Dani in the basement. I'm like, this is not working. But we did try that route also, just trying to figure out how to come up with 40 hours a week.
Right. Because you knew that was the standard, like if you wanted to see whatever progress you were hoping to see. Because again, we don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think we jumped into we tried so many things over the years. It wasn't the one from Ann Arbor was it Play Project?
We did play, yeah.
We did one called
with
Play
Rick
Project.
Solomon in Ann Arbor.
Which was more of like a play therapy. We flew out to Austin at one point, and I don't remember. Do you remember the woman who?
Called Smile or something?
Yeah,
We tried
everything.
tilt table. We tried everything.
Right. Right. And then you're doing speech and OT and physical therapy on top of all the other things you're describing.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. And so then did she move on to like a special education preschool?
Exactly,
Or
yeah.
okay, so she was getting a little bit of support there, but then you're trying to do things after school too.
Exactly. And it was only like 2 hours a day, like 2 or 3 days a week. It was very minimal.
For the school.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like your lives got pretty busy with a lot of the things that you felt that Dani needed. So, so I guess what was a day in the life for your family then?
What was a day in the life of our family? I would say, with Dani, she was definitely very energetic, and you kind of had to keep an eye on her I think probably even in a more intense way than you would with a typical child. So it was busy and tiring. She didn't sleep well. So the fears you have of any of your kids waking up in the middle of the night.
Right.
For us, it was when Dani was up, it was really scary because her going back to sleep was not easy. So it was tiring and exhausting. But we made it work, I think also. I don't know.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what supports do you think helped her as she grew up?
I think just consistency with teachers and schools, support staff in general, I think has always been huge for us. We became members of the Friendship Circle.
It's a great
It
organization.
really is fantastic. They've really been sort of our consistent piece from the time Dani was diagnosed up until today. I'm a board member.
That's amazing.
She still participates in all their programs. And yeah, they've been amazing for us.
So just curiosity, which of the adult programs does she like? Because I know they have some incredible stuff there. Like they've got the bakery and they've got the art center. And
Yeah, so she's not part of either of those because those are day programs, and she goes to a post-secondary vocational school right now. Those are available to adults, though. But she does yoga through them. She does day camps through them. She's done overnight camps. She learned how to ride a bike. So they offer so many different programs, and we try them all, and either they work or they don't. But we've had great success with Friendship Circle.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
summer
and now
programs.
also, the connections I think that we've gotten from there. We definitely have a lot of friends. Debbie has a whole moms group that I think has been really nice and supportive and helpful. Talk about kind of support. Debbie actually was talking about that, having kind of a village of people who are there for you. Not only are close friends with, typical kids, but, obviously the people that we've met through Friendship Circle and whatnot. It's also really nice to have. So
what I'm hearing you say is that the community is not just as important for Dani, it's also important for the family.
Yes.
maybe more. Yeah.
Because you're also
Absolutely.
supporting her.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would you say was one of your plan a house moments where you as parents had to make the impossible possible for her?
Well, we had one I mean, I don't know if we have any more. Maybe you can think of some, but the one that most recently came up for us, actually, it was probably maybe 5 years ago or so. Debbie and I sat down and said we really need to document everything about Dani's life because, when something happens, so it's not if, but when. Dani would be in complete chaos if she didn't have the things that she needs every day to kind of keep happy and at peace. And at the same time, the people that are going to be taking over care for her will also be in complete chaos if they don't have exactly what they want. And so we kind of took on this task of documenting in a Word document, her likes and her dislikes and her behaviors and her medications.
And how long did that get?
It got long and it took a long time and it was an unformatted process.
You're like, how do we keep this updated?
How do we keep it updated? And we kind of took it and you tuck it away and you put it away. And then a few years later, we went to find it and everything about Dani was different. And so we really realized that there has to be a better way. And that was the inspiration around what we are calling the Dani Plan.
So what's the Dani Plan?
So the Dani Plan is a centralized hub that helps to organize and consolidate all the information needed to properly care for your loved one with special needs. And so, and it's simple, it's secure, and it's really easy to share. So now you can not only use it as this kind of insurance policy for when something happens, but you also have a daily tool, something that as we're rotating through new caregivers and teachers and doctors and therapists, we can share with them the information very easily, either by them joining the Dani Plan themselves, and you can select which information you want them to have, or you could print out a PDF for someone who's newly staying with Dani for the day or whatnot.
So let's say I'm a caregiver, but I really like using my phone, so I don't actually want a PDF printout. What would I do?
Yeah, so there's two things in that case. One is we could join you if you're a caregiver that we have one that's been with our family for many years. She's like family for us. So we actually invited her to join the Dani Plan.
Oh, okay.
We give her access, and we only give her access to those sections that we want to give her access to.
Okay.
So she can join the Dani Plan with her own username and password. The other way of doing it is we can actually email her a PDF that it's very mobile friendly. So she can kind of scroll through all the information right on her phone.
So it sounds like this tool has multiple functions, so multiple way offline and online. And then it sounds really dynamic. So it sounds like something. Is it easy to make updates? So if her schedule changed, if things that she liked or disliked, things like that, is that something easy as well?
Yeah, I mean that was one of the keys to there has to be a better way, because taking like a Word document and updating those things is just not accessible. There's no reminders, so we're constantly giving reminders to update. Really, really easy to edit on the fly on your mobile phone or your computer. Super simple and easy. And so it never gets obsolete once you kind of originally fill out the first document. The other thing that we have is the ability to store documents in there. So all the documentation we get
like
from the time they're young, an IEP, all kinds of medical information, government information, all of that information.
When did they get diagnosed? Do you have that from the psychiatrist? Like all those things. Yeah.
Exactly. So Debbie and I were saying if we would have had something like this when we went for guardianship, it would have been huge, because it's guardianship and going for Social Security, trying to find all the documents they're looking for is not an easy task. So there's no more kind of making that phone call, where's this document, looking for it. It's right there, and right from the Dani Plan, you can actually email it over to anybody you need to.
I remember having a binder that would follow me around, and basically I thought it had everything, and sometimes it didn't have everything, and then you're making copies and you're PDFing, and it was such a hassle. That's amazing to actually put all that in one place.
Thank you. Yeah, we're really excited about it, and people have been really enthusiastic and I think grateful actually for I think people are finding it's making their life easier, and it's actually decreasing stress for them. That fear that we all have of how our kids going to be taken care of. There's kind of the housing piece, but then there's will people know what to do? The way that we're going to do it. And we detail it out pretty specific. And so it's a really nice training manual, too, with step-by-step instructions that people could literally be the first time they're ever doing a morning routine, a bedtime routine, and they could pull it up and just go step 1, step 2, step 3. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
So moving back just a little bit to your family. So what's a day in the life like for your family now?
You want to take this one?
Sure, I can. Well, we've only mentioned Dani so far, but we have 2 other kids, and one of them, she is now a junior in college, finishing up her junior year. And we have a 16-year-old son, and he's around too. He's at the house with us also full time. But Dani's in a really good place. She is. She went through a stage at age 18 where she developed epilepsy and went through a really difficult social and emotional change. But I think once we sort of organized and situated her medication and got her to a good place, she has been a really happy adult. And so her transition into adulthood wasn't so pretty, but we've gotten her to a place where she's really easygoing. She likes to spend time with us. She likes to go run errands with us in the car. She likes to take walks in the park. We'd spend every Saturday and Sunday at some different nature preserve or, outdoor facility where we can take Dani for walks if it's beautiful outside. If not, we just go to the movies or we go to a store and walk around. She's just a pleasure to be with, and she's pretty content. She has some relationships with people, but I think mostly her relationships are her family. And she's in some programming after school that she loves and enjoys, and we have great caregivers, and we just feel really grateful. And our other 2 kids, they've grown up with Dani as an older sister, and so I think it's not like they were already here and then a younger child was born with autism. So they've only known from having a sister with autism, and I think it's really created really gentle, loving siblings. And so we're grateful for who Dani has helped us raise also.
Because she's helped create empathy and compassion.
Compassion, yes. Our kids just innately have that. So we're really grateful for that, too. I mean, granted, there's all kinds of chaos in our house, too. We're not perfect. If you came to our house
just
tomorrow,
be clear, Debbie, no one is perfect. So.
Yes, it could be messy. But for the most part, I think we live in a pretty, happy space. It's been good.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So with your vast experience and knowledge, having gone through this journey, and I always say this far, because you're still on it, how are you sharing what you've learned with others?
Well, certainly I think the Dani Plan is one piece. That's what's cool about the Dani Plan is it's really reconnected us with this community, and it's been amazing and really feels good every day to be able to connect with others who kind of get what we're going through and whatnot. And so, I think that, but also I think that we're helping to really spread the word about make sure that that you have the information out there, right? So we can give our kids the respect and dignity they deserve, and the caretakers as well. So I think that's one thing I would say.
Yeah. No, I think I'm good.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. And then for families new on this journey, what advice might you give them?
Oh, wow.
And it can be multiple things.
I don't think I've ever thought of it like that. I just feel like it seems like it's going to be, as I'm sure you know, right? Like the worst thing ever, right? You get this diagnosis and you go dark and depressed and awful, and it's a journey for sure. But surrounding yourself with a community of people that get you and understand you and support you, and I think that's everything for us. I think we started this whole journey alone, and we shut the world out, and we're like, we're going to do this by ourselves, and we don't need friendship circle or our friends, and we're mad at our parents and the siblings, and we did that for a minute, and then we quickly realized that we weren't going to be able to do this alone. Mm-hmm. And so we retracted all that, and we invited everybody in, and we kind of became open books.
Yeah.
And I think that allowed us to create the community that we have around us today, and I'm just so grateful for that piece. So I guess my biggest piece of advice to people is don't shut down, don't shut yourself out, let people in, even when you feel like you want to just go under the covers and cry, do that, but then emerge and allow people in, and just be the biggest voice and advocate for your kid, because our daughter's nonverbal, as Joel mentioned, and we're their voice in the world. And so you have to be out there advocating and fighting to make sure your kid gets what they need in the world.
Yeah, I like to also add that I think for me, it's just like anything else. I think that one day at a time is a big thing. And, I know not everybody has this experience, but I would say for Debbie and I and our family, we have gotten to a really good place where Dani's just super sweet and a pleasure to be with. And we laugh all the, sometimes it's funny, you'll talk to people who aren't in our position. I'll say, oh, I have a daughter with autism. And they'll look at me kind of like with pity and say, oh man, that must be so hard. And I look at them and I say, actually, she's honestly probably our easiest kid. And I'm not kidding in a lot of ways. She really is a lot of ways our easiest kid. She lives in the moment. She lives a super simple life with no ego, takes pleasure out of the simple things in life. And
she sounds busy, so she may have a busier social calendar than a lot of people with all the things she's doing, right?
But she's not vain, and she doesn't get upset if somebody doesn't, call her or leaves her out, and so on and so forth. And so, I just think that I don't know that Debbie and I would have pictured us, today feeling so kind of free and content and happy with the family that we have. But I do think there's a lot of hope for that, and end up kind of really rounds out your family in a special way it has for us. So I think there's a lot of hope there for sure.
And it sounds like also, like you were talking about the compassion and empathy that being together has created. I don't know. I mean, maybe you could have experienced it in another way, but that's pretty magical.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think actually it's probably made Debbie and our relationship closer. I know a lot of people kind of can go the other way from a partnership standpoint, but I think that we've gotten stronger because of it and kind of came together. And I think that's also part of our experience, and maybe some of our advice would be, try to stay together. I mean, be partners in the journey. And I think a lot of good stuff can come out of it.
That's great advice. That's great advice, because it is really hard when you're making sometimes life-changing decisions on a daily basis, depending on what you're doing. It makes a ton of sense that can we do it as partners?
Exactly.
Thank you both so much. Is there anything else you wanted to share? Because is there a question I didn't ask or anything else?
I don't think so. Thanks so much for having us. This is it's a cool experience, cathartic, and no, it's really cool. Really cool what you're doing here. Thank you. No, I so appreciate it. And I'm so grateful to have, both of you, Joel and Debbie, here today. It's amazing. And the work that you're doing with the Dani Plan is really vital. It's really important. It really fills a gap that's, it's just something that's not being done. So thank you both for doing that as well. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So for those of you listening in today, thank you so much for joining us. And I also hope you'll consider subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing this podcast with others who may find it meaningful. And join us next time on Let's Plant Houses. Take care.